Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be reviewing Night of the Living Dead, which was released in 1968. It's a black and white film directed by George A. Romero and it stars Duane Jones. Okay, this film is one of the greatest horror films ever made. It absolutely revolutionized the way we see zombie movies today, and it was such a big inspiration to so many films and so many filmmakers, and I think it changed the way we view horror movies in general forever. The film is very simple, the plot's very simple. It contains these 7 characters who are all strangers to each other, but they end up locked in this farmhouse where basically the undead are coming back to life, and they are killing the living and eating the flesh. So pretty simple premise, but it's the simplicity that makes the film so great. It's the first of several films about the undead that Romero made. The way the film was shot was really masterful, I felt, and the the way the film is made, and the all the master shots and all the long tracking shots of the zombies, and the intense close-ups of the characters just to show what they're going through is really well made. And I loved Duane Jones as Ben. I felt he gave a really good performance, and every time I watch the film I see something different that I like about him. He's a really tough, resourceful bloke, but at the same time he's very vulnerable, and you see that in Duane's performance. There's a scene where he's describing what happened to him before we initially met him, and just looking at his face you can almost see the tears in his eyes as he's describing these horrific events that he's witnessed. I loved all the scenes with between Ben, played by Duane, and Mr. Cooper. I loved all of their arguments, and I just thought the conflict between the two actors and the two characters was just amazing, and it really added a lot of drama to the film that you don't often get in horror movies these days. What I really loved about this film is that it really took its time with its characters, and you really felt invested in them before they eventually met their demise. I think that's a big problem with horror movies and films in general these days, that they just don't spend enough time with characters so we can care about them enough. There's a real element of threat in this movie from the undead. You really do feel as if they are a threat, rather than just people walking past them with a gun and like not really seeing much harming them. I mean, there's a scene where Barbara is in a car and she's hiding from one of the zombies, and the zombie uses a rock to break the window, and you would never see that in an episode of Walking Dead these days. So I just felt that was it really added to the sense of isolation. That's one thing about this movie that I really liked, is the sense of isolation. You really do feel like you're in this farmhouse with all these characters while they're having these arguments, and you're wondering how you would react in this situation. I can't talk about this film without talking about the ending. I love the irony that's loaded at the end of this film. Obviously, throughout most of the film, Mr. Cooper was in conflict with Ben. Ben was saying that they should stay upstairs and they were safer, and according to Mr. Cooper, that they were better. The cellar was the strongest place, and any minute now the place could be crawling with them. But Ben was very argumentative and stuck by his ground, saying the zombies cannot get in the house. And even though we're on Ben's side throughout the whole film, we don't like Mr. Cooper. What eventually happens, he turns out to be right, and when everyone is eventually killed and the place is crawling with the zombies, Ben retreats to the cellar, and he is safe there, and it saves his life. And I just felt I really loved that part of the film. I love that it kind of messed with the audience and kind of made you wonder who was right and who was wrong. And just it gave made the characters more real. I saw an interview once with a guy who talked about how sad he felt when Ben was mistaken for a zombie and shot in the head right in the last frame of the film. And I couldn't agree more with that. I remember feeling absolutely devastated that this character had been killed so brutally and in such an uncaring way. And watching the end montage over the end credits of him being taken to this fire and just not just as another piece of meat by these rednecks, it's just a really added a real poignant drama, a real poignant moment for the film for me. And it just makes the film all the better that I cared so much about this character, and I actually felt sad when he died. But I love this film. I can't. It's aged so well. It's still relevant today, and there's so many themes in this film that's touched upon. It's so much more than a horror film. I remember getting this movie on video when I was a kid, and I loved horror films. And with a title like Night of the Living Dead, I was expecting a gore fest. I was expecting just a few teenagers and some zombies, and that was it. But I got something I totally wasn't expecting. It was even at the ripe age of 8 years old, probably shouldn't have been watching films like that when I was that age, but hey ho. But even back then, I knew that I was watching something special. So I'm glad it's part of my life, and it is a big part of my film going career. Thank you very much for watching this video. Enjoy.